the sun is shining, so this is totally the stage to be at the moment where we're going to talk about angel investments and previous experiences. We have two amazing people here who are going to have a really interesting fireside chat about the topic. So everybody here again who are looking a bit lost on the yard of TechBBQ, please find yourself to the terrace stage, get yourself comfortable, and we're just gonna get going with the fireside chat here. Before I give the microphone over to Claes, Mikko, and Thomas, I'm just gonna give a short introduction to you so you know who's here with me for this next session. Okay. So we have Thomas Black-Petersen. He's a member of the advisory board of the NordicBAN Venture Capital. He's also been the managing director of the very fast-growing consultancy company called Inspire. And the company, Inspire, was awarded by the Danish business newspaper Børsen with the award Gazelle. He's also an active angel investor, which we're going to cover now, next up, and chairman of two boards and board member of a very well-known retail chain. Joining Thomas on stage, we have Claes Mikko Nilsen, the business angel community builder from the Nordics. Claes Mikko was one of the founders of the Finnish Business Angel Networks, which is actually one of the most active angel networks in Europe. Yay! Go Finland! Also today, the managing director of Nordic Business Angel, which was initiated about 2 years ago by the angel network groups here in the Nordics and the Baltics, and also serving as a board member of the Rising North Fund, which is an amazing fund that is actually helping Nordic startups to internationalize. So, I'll give the stage over to you guys, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Amazing, Jessica. Thank you very much. And of course, Jessica's here. She's Mrs. Nordics. She used to run Slush and the Nordic activities. So she knows everybody, so please catch up with her if any Nordic links needed. Good. So great. This is going to be one of the best sessions of TechBBQ, so be prepared. We have the weather on our side and probably some rain in the end. So that's going to be thunder and stormy. So let's get really excited. But the topic is about lead investor experiences, and Thomas has quite a lot of experience already. You're relatively fresh to what we call business angel investing, but maybe you could shortly introduce yourself in the form of investments made and before we dig into lead investor role.
I think I'm a classic business angel. I founded a company 12 years ago, and after 10 years I sold it, and I had some money and I didn't know what to do. So most business angels have that background, that we have more money that we can use, and we want to give something back to the startup community and be doing investments that we can help to create new jobs and value and all that.
Excellent. So creating. So let's do a quick poll here. Hands up, whoever consider themselves as startup investor. Hands up. That's about, and now all the entrepreneurs. Keep your hands up for all the entrepreneurs. Yeah, good. And how many of you are entrepreneurs? Great. And then hands up the rest who don't position. That's one person, two persons. Way to go, TechBBQ. Great job. So investors and entrepreneurs. Great. So we're discussing the role of lead investor. We had a lot of why do startups, how to build companies and so on. But now we're discussing the role of a group of investors. A bunch of these in the form of syndicate or group and the role of lead investors. So how would you say, what is the lead investor for you? What does it mean?
A lead investor is the one that try to gather everybody and to agree on the investment and maybe fundraising as well. So for my first investment as a lead, I made a startup. I thought they were really good, and I wanted to invest, but I didn't want to do it alone, and I didn't have enough money either to do it on my own. So I tried to gather other people, and we did a meeting with the startup and. A little bit louder. Okay, sorry. And for the first meeting, I think there were 4 investors came, and we were managing to get maybe 3 million Danish kroners. And then we thought that was not enough because they wanted to have 5 million. And then we invited for one more meeting, and I invited a super angel. And then we had 9.5 million kroners for this startup. And I was suddenly in charge of this very large investment in an angel round. And I was not aware of how much work that I actually had to do. So it was a lot of work in the due diligence, a lot of communication and coordination. And we ended up being 11 investors in this round.
Very good. Okay, so from an entrepreneur, I think we're getting in the position that group investing is more normal, and then having not just automatic, like I want to have 2-3 investors on board and cover whatever the sum is, but it actually you have from 5 up to several 20s over.
21 is the biggest one I've done, and we're closing today.
Oh, very good. So closing today. So maybe you could highlight what are all the cases you consider being part of as a lead investor, maybe highlighting those.
Yeah, so the first one is a year and a half ago. It was an internet company, the one I just explained about just before, and we were 11 investors. And then we have one from the Nordic Angel Program, where I was the lead investor this year, and it's a training program for new investors. And we were 21 investing in a company called Meploy, and that investment round is closed today. And then I have a third one, which is wooden toys design, and actually they are right there. And they are here to make sure that the round, we actually agree on everything, and tomorrow they will get the money so they can get a salary. And they did mention for me earlier that now they need food for the kids. But that was a classic case as well, and I think we are 7 investors, and I think for some investors, from startups, they said we only want to have 1 business angel, and I said that's maybe hard to get. You should have at least 2, and for myself personally, I will never invest alone, because if I cannot convince any other investors to invest with me, then I shouldn't invest myself either. And then this. It's called Fablewood. They make fantastic toys that you can buy for all your children. Then I thought we, as investors, could bring a lot of experience in to help the startup. And I think that this is maybe the best case I have, where we could bring in many different skills in selling and finance and how to make a budget and how to make distribution channel and a lot of things where we have some experts joining as investors, even though that I was the lead investor, then I didn't do all the work myself, neither in the due diligence. I had a lot of the other investors to do part of the due diligence in this case. So.
Okay, but yeah, so it seems like in that sense, being a lead investor as you're managing the group of the other investors, so that the entrepreneur doesn't have to gather that flock of other angels in that sense. So how much, you said it's a lot of work of managing just the other investors. Aren't everybody agreed in that sense, like you make an investment decision and then off you go? But how do you see, like, let's go into technicalities. So you're the lead investor, so do you decide on behalf of all the investors, or how does it work?
Well, sometimes I decide on behalf of the investors, but I don't tell them. But very often I will ask, we are planning to do this, and I hope you all agree. And then some of the investors will ask questions or will have an opinion. But to be honest, to make it more smooth, I make some of the decisions myself. And sometimes we are 2 lead investors, and we talk together, and we make decisions on behalf of the group.
Very good. Okay, so if you and you're now managing a group, and there's a term called syndication. So, and the difference between a group investment and a syndication is, let's simplify it. Like in a group investment, there's a possibility that all the investors, they invest independently, and that's on the cap table as. Let's say, I think you have an example of that.
Yeah, the first investments I did was also my worst one. Because I thought you cannot be an angel investor if you haven't made any investment. So I was kind of in a hurry to make an investment. And we were 17 investors investing 9 million Danish kroners directly on the cap table. And we did not make a syndication company. And the company was bankrupt after 1 year. So that was some quite expensive learning money from my side as well.
Okay, so there's suddenly the entrepreneur had 70 new chefs on the cap table, technically part of owning and having a strong opinion.
Yeah, but I was not the lead investor.
Okay, exactly. Okay, good. So but then you mentioned syndication. So in not doing just a group of investors in that sense, so you leading this syndication. And we have like the technicalities. You can, how can you invest? The two simplified models is equity and convertible notes.
Yeah, I have not done convertible note yet.
Okay, but you get ownership in exchange for your investment.
Yeah.
And then the juridical form of these syndications and group investments. Is the voice okay? Can you still get us? Good. So the juridical forms are SPVs, special purpose vehicles. You can structure those, or then have just a direct syndicate. And these SPVs are holding and partnerships models, and then the syndication. So you can do like the NAP Nordic Angel program, which you're doing. So what's the structure? How do you make that contract?
So we make a Danish company. We create a company in Denmark. It's called an APS. And we will put money in the APS in two ways. One is equity in the special purpose vehicle, or the APS, and the other is a loan. And then we will have a document creating the company, and we put all the investors will go to the board. So in one case, we have 21 board members of one company. This is a little bit silly. But that's to prevent that someone can make decisions on behalf of others, and then you are a investment company. And we don't want to do that. We want to have something that requires everybody to agree.
Very good. So, but I guess the main role is just to make it as simple as possible. So the entrepreneur has just one contact person, though there's 2 or 20 or 100 investors on board.
Yeah,
So
but the clever part is, and I met startups that are worried. They don't want to have 15 investors. We cannot handle that. That's too much, and we don't want to have them all asking questions and sending email and all that. But the opposite is actually a good idea, because if you have a lead investor and you might have 2, maybe even 3 people from the syndicate that joins the board, they will handle all the daily communication or daily work with the startup, but also on the investors. So, but what the startup will get is a list of people with a lot of different competences. So if we are having a sales strategy workshop, we will look at the competence matrix to see who knows about sales strategy, or who knows about marketing, or who knows about e-commerce, or who knows about selling in Germany, or whatever they need. And then we can do work with the startup where people that are experts will join a workshop focusing on a specific topic. And that is of great value. And I think that the startup up here will agree. They got 7 investors coming in with some really, really skilled people. I don't know anything about toys, but 2 of the other investors, they do a lot. We want to sell to Asia. One of these investors here, she's from China.
Okay, so it's an excellent way in that sense. No, let's say cross-border investing, which is getting investors joining abroad as well, and it seems like it's increasing in interest. So in the Nordics, just it's so simplified in that sense, but it's partly actually not just the money; it's helping out on the market expansion. So for the entrepreneurs, it would be smart to consider bringing on investors who own. They get eventually some investment, and part of that could be sweat equity, so ownership exchange of knowledge, and that could be part of that syndication deal as well.
Yeah, we haven't done that.
Okay, but I guess that's partly of the next steps of when. But it seems like syndication, the templates and the contracts, that's the investing part is quite easy nowadays. You have the templates. Could we say so?
No.
Okay.
So creating the syndication is one document, but it is, I think, 20 pages long. It's the same document we use at most of the syndicates, but we still need to make an investment agreement and a shareholder agreement with the companies, and sometimes we see a delay that can be 1 or 2 months just to agree on the terms and to make everybody happy. At one case, we had previously investors, and they were very concerned about the new shareholder agreement, so it did cause some delays.
So in Denmark, you don't feel you have a standard still for this kind of a contract level?
No.
Okay.
And I know you have that in Finland, and I've seen that in Silicon Valley, but we don't have, I would say, in Denmark, standard documents that are really just ready to use.
Okay, so I guess that's part of the culture, developing in that way. But it seems like in the future, the actual investment will be more simple. You agree, and then just transaction the money and getting the template will make it easier. So you can focus on actually, the due diligence part, and then again, the 8 year of average ownership as an angel and growing that company and hopefully making a positive exit. So
I will say I hope we can make it more simple, but in reality, sometimes I get a 45 pages document in English with the shareholder agreement and investment agreement, and I need to read it. As a lead investor, you cannot just say, it looks fine. And I feel sometimes I'm the only one of the investors who actually read all 45 pages.
Well, that's a good bridge over to the role. How are you compensated as a lead investor?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I learned from the first time I was a lead 2 things. One is it was really hard work. And the other one I realized is that you put also your reputation on stake, because what if they go bankrupt? And then you have 7 investors that lost a lot of money. And what if that I didn't do my due diligence good enough? So I think that the reputation loss can be bad. And hopefully so far the times I've been a lead investor, things are looking really good in all of them. But I have not received any compensation for being the lead investor. The only compensation I got is if I join as a board member or a chairman, then we make a warrant agreement. So I have a small percentage that I will earn in 4 or 5 years. So if there is an exit of the company, then I will get more than the other investors, but that's from the board work and not for being a lead angel.
Very good. Okay, but it seems like money compensation is not an option from other.
It could be. I just haven't done it.
Okay, but to be honest, I working with angels, that has never happened. So in that sense, angels paying other angels,
that's not working.
Exactly. But then from the entrepreneurial point of view, that's something again to consider as well. That you should make sure that, because the lead investor is not just you invest your money, but it's a lot of work just managing those. Is it 5 or 20? So. Yeah, the compensation level, equity getting a little more, or option level, so that to compensate and open that. And that's part of the templates and standards which are available in the ecosystem, in the future at least.
Maybe, hopefully.
Exactly. Okay, so the compensation...
But what I done is that I put it up very early in the process that no matter who will be in the board from the syndicate, then there is a warrant agreement, and the warrant agreement will give them some compensation.
Okay.
I think that's important.
So for the entrepreneur to think, so now we have the lead investor taking care of the rest of the investor flock in that sense. That person hopefully will be compensated and will be, kept motivated as well as the entrepreneur. But then again, the third part, how do you work as the lead investor? How do you use tools? How do you manage the investment and all that part? So let's do the investment tools and then management tools later on.
An example is we have every month almost in Danish Business Angels, we have a pitch event, and we are notified by the organizer how many are interested in this startup. And sometimes we have 20 people that are interested, and then someone will take a lead. If no one takes the lead, the investment doesn't happen. So there needs to be a lead investor, and that is also my advice to the startups. Make sure you get a lead investor. And if you're trying to be a lead investor yourself as a startup, it will be a lot of work and you will probably fail. So you need a lead investor that can do the organizing and the communication, or like project management almost. And then I will ask for interest, and very often 20 goes to 15. And then when we go further, we are just 10. So people might be interested, but when it comes to actually pay the money, then people will drop off. So I use a spreadsheet to manage the investors and trying to figure out who can give what and how much do they want to invest. And then I think my trick as a lead investor is I make some good resumes from the meetings. So I will make sure that all the investors that don't show up because they live far away, or they don't have the time to show up to meetings with the startups. So if we have 10 investors who are very interested, maybe only 5 or 6 actually show up to the meetings with the startup. So I make a really good resume very fast with a lot of information. And I don't show that resume to the startup. I just make sure that there's a lot of communication to make the other investors feel comfortable.
Okay, but it's still a spreadsheet, like it's Excel, you manage it. We're still in the 90s in that sense, what comes to tool level of managing that syndication.
I like Excel.
Excel is great, good. So let's allow that. But I think something might come, different kind of tools for helping out that closing of that investment as well. But let's go, how do you manage then again? The entrepreneur reports most likely to the lead investor primarily, and do you take it over for the rest of the investors, and how do you manage that after the investment is made? And how much work is it?
So after the investment is made, we have a reporting. I say it's often quarterly, and then there will be a report to the whole syndicate. I will, as a board member, get information every month, most of the times at least. And then I will make sure that either some of the good information from the founder or my comments as well will go to the syndicate. Okay,
and that's email?
Yes.
Okay, still email level. Okay, so we have excellent email still.
But we did use a new, very nice tool from Estonia at the Nordic Angel Program that I haven't seen before. It's called Startup Includer. And we used that tool to select from 35 startups down to the one we did the investment in. And there was a lot of voting and communicating and using this tool to select. And at Danish Business Angels, we are using this tool in the future to rate and select what startups should join our pitch events and where is the interest. But that's before investment.
Exactly. So that's the deal flow management.
That's the deal flow management.
Again, okay, but we're getting to the level where you have the deal flow management in order. Maybe the next level will be that you actually have the one click away, that the financial transaction will also happen through that tools. And then again, on the third level, they're now popping up, like in Norway, there was a big investment, and in Finland, big investment of managing that kind of a investment. So we're getting on the level of syndication. Of course, crowdfunding is a lot about handling the masses, but it's still different. You're still personally involved what comes as a lead investor. As a global example, maybe AngelList, one of the most used platforms for using lead and activating a lot of investors on board. So AngelList in the US, not so active still in Europe. So they're compensating the lead, but it's automatic. If a lead investor profile, some known person, just I'm including X amount of people, and it's just easier for cross-border investor to not trust the startup or entrepreneur. It's trusting the lead investor in that sense. So do you see the future of the lead investor role? Just how do you see it in Denmark? Is the culture ready to take more lead investor roles?
But what we are trying to do is to have more people who want to be a lead investor, who wants to take the role, and that's one reason. One way to do that is we do training. So Danish Business Angels have this Nordic Angel Program. So you have new investors coming in all the time. They don't know how to invest, and they make wrong decisions, like I did on my first investment. And we want to have more people who will be super angels and lead investors. And I think my personality is I prefer to be the lead, because then I know what will happen. And of course, I've been a passive investor in other cases, but some people, they will never be a lead investor because they simply don't have the, I would say, personality to do it. They prefer not.
Could you highlight the personality, because the entrepreneurs there, what personalities should it be? Okay, maybe social would be possible.
It could be if you are extrovert or introvert, or if you are like a sales guy or you're not. So I'm not a product guy, I'm a sales guy. And I like to be on stage, something like that.
Perfect.
And I think that's my personality. I did not ask for this. You asked me, could you join? But I think it's a personality. For me, in the syndicates, I only want to invest with real business angels. So I prefer that they are a member of Danish Business Angels. And one stage, I was investing with a guy. I met him today here. And I said, you can only join the syndicate if you join Danish Business Angels. But then we are doing some investments now where we have investors from other angel groups in Denmark that are co-investing with us as well. And I have not done cross-border investor myself, but at one investment we have a guy from Estonia that was co-investing. It was a little bit complicated because a lot of the standard documents we used are in Danish, and the term sheet was in Danish. So we are changing that and trying to do most of the stuff in English from the beginning, even though that we don't have an international investor. But recently I didn't want to do any cross-border because I thought as an angel, don't invest in anything where you can drive in 1 hour. And don't invest in anywhere where you don't have a network. So you need to have network, money, time, experience to be a good angel. And then I learned recently that if you have like a Finnish company that needs to open for business in Denmark, it could be really good for them to have a Danish angel. And at the first investment I did, where we were 11 investors, where I was the lead, we are closing a lot of deals in Norway right now. I wish I had a co-investor in Norway that could help us just a little bit, because we don't know anyone in Norway. And so that would have been great. So I'm open now for doing co-investment with Finnish or Norwegian or Estonian companies for that matter as well.
Okay, but it seems like as an angel you have the readiness, not just the 1 hour drive away, but it's more like for the entrepreneurs to consider as well the role of the local lead. So that's really like branding. How do you get that co-investment? Not just the startup itself, of course that's the majority, but it has to who you're investing with. So that's playing a big part.
Yeah, and I don't do due diligence on my co-investors, because that's done when they join the Danish Business Angel. So I trust them by definition.
Okay, and is there any other chance of you being a lead investor? You're now building outside NordicBAN as well. The Danish Business Angels do independent investments, and how could those potential co-investors join you? I guess it's have a good dinner and be a good pal, but is it just personal relations, or are you happy to take just the money?
I'm happy to take just the money. If we, and sometimes we just we need 1 million more, and then we can close the deal. So how do you get that 1 million? I prefer, of course, to have someone that have special skills that we can use. But sometimes we see investors that are very passive, and I've done that myself. I've been investing in companies I have no clue. I cannot do anything except thinking this is a cool product, but I don't know anything.
Right. But how do you see it, just before, and if you feel like any questions ending up before we end, but maybe lastly, we mentioned this kind of the juridical form. So we have the SPVs and the syndications being a lead. That's very clear. So special purpose vehicle. So how do you see the next step? What should the Danish startup ecosystem be prepared for? Should we be SPVs or syndication?
Yeah, I think next step is to use platforms that can make the paperwork easier. And I've seen these platforms coming, and some of them are also here today. One is called Thunderbeam, and I think that I will be using that especially for the toy company. I think that could be great in the next round we do next year, maybe. That we have a tool that can be used to market towards other investors in other countries.
Very good. Okay, so we're helping out that. So taking a little bit away from the Excel, but then again, helping out so you can focus even more on selling the toys.
Yeah.
Yes, there's 2 questions. Let's start with the Swedish investor question.
And yes, the microphone is on. Let's start here.
Yes, thank you. I'm from Sweden, and we are not so good at syndication as you are in Finland. I think we are more or less on the same level as you are here in Denmark. And you were addressing the question how to make lead syndicator compensated. And you said no, I have not yet. But I'll tell you, I'm leading some syndicates myself, and you have to get compensated one way or another. And I know that in Finland and in Silicon Valley, there are schemes for arranging that. So could you please elaborate on that? So give us some.
So I've started and you continue. So I think that compensating lead investors is a very good idea, and it can be done in different ways. So the first time I tried it, I didn't understand maybe how much work it was. So it was too late. The second time, then I didn't join the board. That was with the NAP program. So I thought, this is training. I don't want to be compensated. And the first time as well, I would join as a chairman and get the warrant, and that's okay with me. But I think, and I've heard Claes mentioning methods of doing that, I think it should be done, and it should be talked about very early. You have some ways of doing it. One is that you actually transfer equity to the lead investor for a very small amount. And if the investment succeeds, then the lead will have more equity than the other. And if it doesn't succeed, then you transfer the equity back to the startup. I think that's a very clever way, and I have actually considered using that, but then the investment didn't go through.
Yeah. So the three models. So money compensation never happens. Second one is the option and the having the further exit the additional equity amount. That's long term and little less sexy, but quite well used. And then the third one, which we use, is called the pre-equity one. So pre-equity means that those active individuals going around, they make a warm handshake with that team, like, hey, I'll be your lead, I will get 2% now, and then I will invest with the same terms and gather a group of, let's say, 10 others. So it's fair for the others that you have the same terms for that, but in addition, the entrepreneur gives from his or her stack that additional ownership. So it's still a commitment, no financial transactions, but it's more about commitment in that sense. But it's quite clear, and it's an easy way for the lead to, this is my compensation for just making a handshake. So of course it creates a lot of trust requirement. Money, option, pre-equity, something like that. Okay.
Let's take one more. Was there still a question? Yes. This is the last one, and then we can wrap up.
Yes, hello. Thank you for a nice talk. I'm wondering if you have any experiences or thoughts with co-investing with not angels, so either corporates or venture capitalist funds or anything else like that.
I have talked to Nordic, right here, to do co-investments. We haven't done it because then the investments didn't happen. But I don't mind investing or co-investing with VC funds or any innovation funds from Denmark. Actually, quite a few times. But we have had also with some of the innovation funds we have in Denmark. But for some reason, they never happened. Or the investment didn't go through. So I have not done it in the investments I've done. But
maybe they're like the two main for angels, the who to co-investment. So like the VC level and then the public side. So typically as on the angel and VC, it's always the VC that's the lead investor because they come in with the larger stack. So there's typically as a lead, angels are not. What is really positive in the ecosystem that VCs are now opening up for potential co-investors in the form of angels. Angels are, the academic term is less shitty in the form of making investments. So they don't screw it up on the cap table, they make it a fair cap table, and the entrepreneurs also know how to invest. So the standard documents for which are balanced. So it's really important that the entrepreneur knows what kind of papers they sign and include the investors, that it's later stage investable. There's always an additional round. So that's with the VC level. But the public sector co-investing, that's really interesting for the lead investor part.
I had some really bad experience in that a few months ago. And there was a public fund that was investing in a startup. And then we came in with just 1 million Danish kroner as a late in the process. And then the fund said no. And then they said, then we will not invest anything. And then we had some experts in this industry and were asked to go away. I was really in shock.
Well, this is like the public, because the Nordics will always include public level at some stage. Typically 50% of the investment will be a public sector. What is interesting, the Finnish and especially Swedish difference is that in Finland they did a cultural change where the public sector never chooses what to invest with. The public sector structure has changed so that it only co-invests with the private sector, but the leads have to come from the private sector. And that's in Sweden, it's Almi Invest. The really interesting and fascinating model that the public sector decides what to invest and the private sector matches that public level.
We want that in Denmark too.
The Finnish or Danish, or you have it in...
We don't, but I would prefer that because sometimes I think that the big difference getting investment from an angel compared to an innovation fund is that the angels invest their own money.
Exactly.
And the others, they invest public money.
Yeah, so there's a cultural difference hopefully happening that the government, it's up for the angels and the private sector to be more visible, and the entrepreneurs have to be more skillful to require that there's more private sector funding available and they do the job. It's unfair that the public sector have to do the dirty work on due diligence and then again doing decisions which they're not that experts on. So it should come from the private sector having skillful leads, and the public sector, if we use the public tax money, it will be used for matching. But the private sector should take the responsibility on that side. So Almi Invest, if you're here, be bold and let the private sector do their job. Hopefully that's same in Denmark.
Right, I would just continue the last one. So in Denmark, Vækstfonden had promoted some angels to be super angels, and then they can get co-investment. And that's, I think, 4 or 5 angels. But in Denmark, we have 3,000 business angels. And only 4 or 5 has been allowed to have this role where they get money, public money at the same time.
But here it comes. Lastly, Jessica, before this is the last session, isn't it? So we're not in.
This is second last.
Second last. Then we're just quickly
We're a
wrapping
bit
up.
over time, but the conversation is so good that
Well, once again,
everybody enjoying it.
For the public sector to be able to allow that private sector take that responsibility, it's to make the private sector more visible. And now, for the first time, TechBBQ is doing a great job having making it Investor Day. The investors need to mingle with each other. Angels need to know the VCs, the M&As. Find co-investors, find theoretical exit channels. And now the TechBBQ said very clearly that they only made TechBBQ for startups and VCs. This is for the first time we're having Investor Hygge, making it visible for the angels. So making the private sector on all levels more visible. And that's for Nordics, make Nordics great again. Then again, that would be a great one-liner.
It's always been great.
Exactly. It's still great again. Anyway, so just having all the startup events in the Nordics focus on serving the private sector of investors in angels, whatever that form is. So really require that from your local ecosystem. Yeah. One question, or are we set? You decide.
Well, let's take it, because there's not a program here, so we'll just continue.
So actually, this is not really a question. So I was the only one that didn't raise my hand where you asked who are the entrepreneurs, who are the investors in here.
Invest?
So I am a researcher, and I do research on Danish business angel markets. And I just wanted to, I thought maybe this was a fun fact for you, because I'm researching into the magnitudes of these different types of investments. And when you look at all early stage investments in Danish startups that occur, like all early stage investments defined as investments undertaken within the first 10 years of a startup's birth, 90% of them come from private individuals, like the syrup there. 0.5% come from innovation funds, and 0.5%, and we're just talking about single investments, not in the amounts invested. So private individuals, they account for 90% of all of this.
That's a good job, definitely. Good numbers, thank you very much. Okay, I think we were just as a Nordic Angel program, and which was mentioned, and NordicBAN, which will now inspiring this kind of angel dating. So hopefully we can help out on that. So if any comments, that would be great. And we require a local lead angel which takes the lead, so we can have this kind of angel dating. But lead angel plays a huge role.
So for those of you that are investors, join Danish Business Angels, and for those of you that are startups, try to look at Nordic Angel program and see if that's a way to get funding as well.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Thomas. Mr. Black, as we call.
Thank you, guys. It was a really great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.